down. Hey, Danny, thanks for joining me. Could you just first tell me just a little bit about yourself, a 30-second overview of who you are?
Yeah, great to be here. My name is Danny Davis. I'm the founder of Recon Sports. I was born and raised in upstate New York. I was recruited to and played football at West Point. I graduated from the academy in 2018. I studied systems engineering and systems management there. I went on to be a field artillery officer in the United States Army. I did that for 5 years, and when I got out a couple of years ago now is when I stepped fully into Recon Sports. I'm married to my wife, Rebecca, and I have a beautiful dog, a Belgian Malinois named Javelin. And yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your service, first of all.
Cool.
And how, for people who don't know what Recon Sports is or does, could you just give an overview of what it is?
Yeah, so Recon Sports, we help teams across the country really build peak performing teams. And we do that by providing expert data analytics and expert data solution services. We allow the coaches to communicate on a really high level because the data is conformed to their terminology. It's built specifically for them without them having to do any work to get there. And then ultimately that leads them to being able to coach the players that much better because they have the data and insights on where they need to improve and ultimately have the best team on third down. You know, when I started this, it was initially at high schools, and I was trying to do analytics for high school teams, trying to have the best players, call the best plays on third down. But as I started going, I realized that in the college world, they're really looking for the best players on third down, and that happens through tracking them 365 days out of the year, and that's really what we help coaches do seamlessly without having to do any manual work themselves. And it's really having a full-time data service provider in their hip pocket 24 hours a day, 7 days of the week.
Yeah, that's awesome. What made you want to start this in the first place, using data analytics to help with coaching? What was kind of your thought process to start, and why did you?
Well, when I graduated from West Point, I had 5 years in the Army, and I knew after that 5 years I was going to leave, and I really wanted to figure out what I wanted to do. I wanted to step into something I was passionate about. I always had kind of a knack for data and Excel, and then playing football. I wanted to be involved in sports again when I got out. I wanted that environment, wanted that atmosphere. So the first year when I graduated, I started taking online classes on data analytics and different tools that you can use, and really just started my journey learning. And to really accelerate that process, I went and volunteered at every high school that was near me, wherever I was stationed at, and just offered to be a part of their team, offered to do their analytics and just see what their problems are. So it was that. And then while in the Army as an officer, I was assigned over $4 million worth of equipment, which is not that uncommon for officers, but they gave me a binder that was about this thick with everything that I now own in it. And they're like, we'll come back in a year, and if you don't have it, you're going to pay for it. And I was like, yeah, that's not going to happen. Like, I need to track this a lot better than just this binder. So I basically built an entire data system to help me track all my equipment, where it was going. And those two things over those 5 years, I saw how valuable it was. I saw how much fun I was having with it. And it led me to wanting to start a business and go out and do it for high school teams, and then ultimately on my way into the college world.
Awesome. And can you explain a little bit how you get players' stats and statistics for the data and how you input that? And then is it like an individual athlete that you're looking at a lot of the time, or teams in general and how they work? Can you just kind of explain that a little bit?
Yeah, it's a great question. In the world of athletics today, there's so much technology out there, from GPSs to cameras on the squat racks to see how fast they're moving the bar, to cognitive tests, dozens upon dozens of different data sources that are providing metrics that is now given to the directors, given to the coaching staff, but it's in all of these different little segments, all of these different logins. And the problem is now, how do you get that all together? How do you see it all in one piece of paper so I don't have to go in and log in to 12 different websites to see those data points? I want it all on one piece of paper with what I want to see and the color coded to how I want to see it. So now that enables them to go see trends on their entire team, broken down into position groups, so on and so forth. But they're able to really see where maybe a player's at risk, maybe where a player's doing really well, and then dive into a player profile on that athlete. Say, hey, do we need to adjust our standards to make, if this guy's doing really well, this is our standard, or this guy's doing really poorly. Maybe this is why he's doing that poorly. And now I can go have a conversation with him and try to adjust that and correct that, and not just be like, he doesn't meet our standard, he's off the team. No, it allows them to go have a conversation with them now and have more insight on a per player basis.
Yeah, that makes sense. How helpful would it have been to you if you had this when you were playing football, and how helpful is it to these kids today that have all these data and can track their movements and everything that they do? And what is the importance of having that next to them?
It would be huge. My experience in high school and college was, I had a great experience playing football there, but it was kind of, I don't want to say cookie cutter, but they didn't really know what was going on with my life outside of just pure like stats. And when I see the impact that we're able to have on teams now, my favorite aspect where we work is player development. And we're able to track now, the motivations of a player. What's his why? Who's a champion? Where does he see himself in 5 years? Being able to track all of that now, and let's say I was missing class or my grades weren't good, or having a coach come in and talk to me one-on-one, knowing kind of what my goals and aspirations are 5 years from now, who I lean on as my support system, and kind of create a village around me to help me instead of just kind of punishing me and go do up downs. That's still part of the process, but having to have that one-on-one conversation about me as an individual, and then ultimately now seeing, a lot of the feedback that we get from players is, we don't want our name to be on that negative board. Like, we do not want to see our name up there. Flip side, we want to see our name on that leaderboard. So it really drives so many factors, from both just a physical point to a mental point to a spiritual point. Really, this village that I didn't really have around me in high school and football, just because the data and, I had great coaches, but having this level of detail and this level of tracking 365 days out of the year, I think would have been huge.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I'll go one more on that from a parent's perspective. If my parents had something like this, that my coaches were providing them, this one-stop shop of, hey, here's his grades, here's his body weight, here's his attendance. Like, hey, he's not doing really well. We kind of need your support on this. Or, hey, he's doing really good, so you can let him go a little bit. Right? My parents would have loved that. And now we're seeing that with parents and having this be a big recruiting tool. Because when parents see this and parents hear that, it's like, I want my son or daughter to go there because they're tracking him every single day of the year. And I'm going to be able to see that.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing. That's really cool. Going off of that, do you have like one specific kind of, or a couple of success stories that you've seen that your data has made a game-winning team, or a player that has just improved so much using the data analytics that you provided?
Yeah, there's a great testimonial on our Recon Sports YouTube channel. The player development director at the University of Tennessee, he actually told a success story on one of his players that was had so many misses, was the leader in misses and issues across the board. And once we implemented this tracker for him over 2 years ago now, he developed into an All-American and is entering into the draft this year. And he really speaks on how much this tool was able to help him kind of course correct. There was nothing wrong with him. He was just having some off the field issues that he was able to communicate with him now on his motivation and, get his champion in there and be able to kind of get him out of that mental funk to go perform at the highest level possible and what he was capable of doing.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing. That's really cool. Is there a specific data point that helps more than others in some aspects, or is it all kind of intertwined and all of it comes together? But is there like one specific thing that really like helps, I guess?
That's a great question. I think, I don't know if there's one piece of the puzzle that really makes the puzzle stand out, but I think the beauty of it is, giving all of these puzzle pieces to a certain director or to a certain coach, and now allowing him to see what matters the most to him through his experiences, through his knowledge, through what's, his strengths and his weaknesses, being able to kind of now take the data to the next level of, hey, I've got to go spend 20 hours to try to do this Excel sheet or get the data to where I need it to be. I'm able to kind of go dig deeper and see what really matters to the team, what matters to me, and find those outliers. So really just putting the coaches and the directors in a position to go kind of answer that question themselves is, I think, my favorite part of it, and what I think is really powerful.
Yeah. When you first started, did you kind of get into it for the data, and now it's more kind of about the people and the team, and you're realizing that this is way bigger than, data could even become?
For sure. I first started, we did the high school with Recon Sports. That was the first couple of years, but my first department in a college was strength conditioning. And that's relatively simple to see improvements and track progress because, a guy goes from 200 to 230 pounds on the bench. He improved. Like, that's pretty easy to track. And there's a lot of data that goes into it. But now once we got that underneath our belt and was able to go into the player personnel, player development, player engagement, academics, and almost take a step back and see how this all ties together to really, it's really not about the plays you call on third down. It's about that athlete on third down. If you have the best athlete on the field, it doesn't really matter the play. And that happens 365 days out of the year, not just in the weight room, but in the classroom, in attendance, in cognition, in the film room. All of these pieces that are now put together to be able to drive that performance it's truly remarkable.
Yeah. Is there coaches that are ever skeptical about when you bring this proposition to the table? You're like, hey, I'd love to track your players, your team about this data, and they're like, I don't know. What kind of would you tell them, or advice would you give them? Or if they are skeptical, if you've ever had any of those?
Yeah, it definitely happens all the time. And I wouldn't say that they're necessarily skeptical of using data. Maybe you have some old school coaches, but everyone, I think, is of the consensus that you need to be making data-driven decisions. I think where the skepticism comes in is trust. Being able to now hand your data to someone, and when reports due, and their job is relying on that, being able to trust someone is a work in process that doesn't happen overnight. But our clients, we start with only a couple departments and build that trust, build that system. And once the other departments see what's going on and they know what Recon Sports is about, what we bring to the table, how we are in their hip pocket Monday through Sunday, 24 hours of the day, it erases that skepticism, and they're able to operate a lot more freely now. So that's kind of what I've seen doing this over the past couple of years, and what I try to kind of bring to the table in terms of always communicating and taking it as serious as, because their job is on the line with this. So that is extremely important to us at Recon Sports, to make sure that if they need a report or if there's something broken last minute, they can call us and they're going to get someone to pick up the phone and it's going to get fixed.
Yeah, that's a big kind of responsibility and weight on your guys' shoulder. How do you handle that stress in that situation of if this doesn't work because of our data analytics, what's going to happen to the team or us or the coach?
That's just almost a motivation to wake up every day and just get after it and make sure that we're doing the little things right and we're collecting the data as it goes. And, when those reports are due, if it fails, it didn't fail right in that minute. It failed from something going wrong, a few days ago, a few weeks ago. So always having a great team around me at Recon, having great systems in place. AI now is a big factor in our lives that helps us be that much better and catch those errors that much faster. So having all of those things and really having a game plan almost every day with that knowledge of, hey, we might not mess something up today, but something we do might mess something up in the future. So we are going to handle our business today and every day going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. What is the biggest challenge you faced starting in your own company, founding it, and then trying to get your name out there, as well as just all the data itself has to be difficult as well. So what is you've seen as the biggest challenge so far?
So the biggest challenge that I've seen from a data perspective, I'll start there, And this happened both in high school with film breakdown and now in college with a lot of the platforms and data that they track, that the data is not 100% accurate. You would like to go in thinking that it's 100% accurate and there's no spikes and it's clean, ready to go. But one of the biggest frustrations and biggest pain points that is cleaning out that 2% that is flagged. For example, GPS, they track speeds when they wear GPS. A GPS can be on in the car ride from the game to the field. And now Danny Davis just has a 50-mile-an-hour speed. How do you go clean that out? Ideally, you just want to plug that right into their ports. So that's been a huge pain and a huge obstacle that we had to overcome. From starting my own company and grinding it through, I've had this vision for about 7 years now, and it's been up and down the entire process, and hearing so many people say no and really fighting with yourself on, hey, it's not personal. There's nothing wrong with you. It's either the delivery, the product, like something's not there. So always trying to, not take anything personal, not take anything. No one really cares how hard you work. No one cares how much time and energy went into that report. They only care about the outcome. And, having that be the sense of reality, it can be challenging at sometimes. Definitely worth it. Definitely worth the process. Definitely worth sticking with it for 7 years. Still got a long way to go, but it's been one of the biggest blessings to be able to start my own company, birth it from the ground up, pivot so many times looking back on it. And it's something that I hope I never have to go back on.
Yeah. What is your long-term goal for this company? What are you hoping to see it end with, or as long as you're still here, what do you want it to see go to?
I would love, we signed our first basketball team this year. I would love to get more involved in the athletic department. And when people see this, they're like, it's not really just football, is it? No, this is total athlete performance across the entire board. So our next goal is to get into more sports. But I've also had comments on, hey, our teachers want something like this. There's not even just sports, but going down the hall into the administration and the academic side. How are they teaching their students? How are they tracking all this data? Because they're bombarded with data constantly in 2025. So being able to really help just the student athlete and then maybe just students down the road, I think is a big time vision of ours.
Yeah, so it doesn't have to just be an athlete. Anyone can be part of the data or the Recon Sports, even though it's called sports.
Yeah, that's the vision long term. Right now, it's just sports. Right now, it's just football and basketball, but really it could be any of the sports, men's or women. But I think, down the road, I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I have another company called Recon Digits that does this for DoD departments or DoD companies, aerospace companies, and they'll kind of merge into the student side, the administration side of the education world. So it's really this all-encompassed, my goal is there's so much weight that comes with having to do your own data and do your own reports, especially if you don't come with the knowledge of that. And just allowing people and leaders to operate freely because they have the data that they need in the way that they want to see it is our ultimate goal, and that's where we get our most joy. So wherever we can find that impact the most is what we're striving for.
Awesome. Why did you decide to partner with us? Why did you decide to partner with Fandom Nation?
It's a great question. I had a couple of Google searches that come up, and I didn't see, it was just email blasts, and it wasn't very personal, and it wasn't really about, myself or the company. It was just, hey, we have contacts, we'll send them an email. When I talked with Mike, the founder of Fandom there, I really loved his vision for what he had. I really liked the team that he had around him, and the, amplification of myself and Recon Sports, I think, is what really drew me to Fandom. And also, me being, I didn't really think about the fans' perspective on this. And because when fans watch football or sports, they only kind of see what's going on the field, the coaches, and they kind of only think that's this little world there. When in reality, now that I see this and what's going on in the back end, there's so many jobs and opportunities for people to have impact on the team without having to be a player or a coach. Right? I'm the teams that I work with, I'm their biggest fan right now. It's like so fun to watch their games because I wasn't a fan before, but now I'm a fan, obviously, because we're working with them, and it's so fun to be a part of. And I just think being able to share that with the fan community, being able to be a part of what Fan Day is kind of envisioning with their amplification is why I ultimately wanted to work with you guys.
Yeah, awesome. So speaking of fans, like, do you think in the future fans will be able to kind of see and track athletes' process? Like if it, if they're following a team or a certain player, like will they be able to see like the data process of that?
Definitely probably not, just because it's pretty tight from the school. But we are trying to figure out ways for fantasy football and sports betting. And a lot of my friends, it's the first thing that they ask me and what I do. And they can't really wrap their head around it. But like, can you help me in fantasy football? Can you help me with my picks this week? That's where I think there's a lot of value to be added there, and being able to provide fans with different metrics that maybe some of these companies that they've never heard of before are tracking, and providing college coaches to help them make the decisions. If we can kind of maybe put the fans onto those data points a little bit, I think there's some potential there to help them win their fantasy leagues and help them beat the spread.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. My last question for you is, firstly, how do you want to be remembered as Danny? And then how do you want Recon Sports to be remembered as well?
Well, I want Recon Sports to be remembered as, whenever a question's asked, it's almost used as an adjective. Did you get the recon on that player? What's the recon say on him? What's the recon say on that team? Wherever you want to use that, it's that powerful to where you need a little recon on it, an in-depth data profile to then go make decisions. And being able to provide that and be trusted to provide that is what I'm ultimately aiming to provide. From Danny Davis's perspective, I want to be a person that really generates value for others and solves problems, and difficult problems and important problems, and being able to be a part of peak performing teams, not just in the sports world, but in life, I think is the most important thing that you can have. And being able to now provide to those teams is what I ultimately want to be remembered by.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Danny, for joining me.
Absolutely.
We're excited to work with you.